let's face it, women's sport is really about, it's not about sport, it's about conditioning. And if you look at the theme of many, many stories, they all seem to portray men as the bad guys. Um, and think about it, the World Cup, and they were trying to pretend that the Women's World Cup is some sort of um, as equally of global interest as the Men's World Cup. I personally have no interest in football at all. Um, like many men, when I was much younger, I really liked football, and I used to follow it. I used to go to games. Yup, I used to go to games. I haven't been to a game for decades. I think the last time I went to a game was when a friend treated me to a European Cup game in Switzerland, um, and I haven't been since because I know what football is. It's a distraction. It's not about sport. People should play sport. Very few people should watch sport. And also, team sport is really stupid in many ways. I can understand why people would like to play, like, little league or something. People playing for fun. Pub teams. That's great. But following a big club with the millions and the tattooed people from all over the world, nah, doesn't do it for me. And bearing in mind that's my attitude towards men's football, you're not going to get me to take any interest in women's football either. And I doubt very much whether most women are particularly interested in women's football either. And what has this got to do with football, right? Look, answers questions from reporters. The Spain's women team end their boycott. 7 hours of meetings. Spanish Football Federation. I mean, are Spanish women so lacking in things to do with their free time that they are interested in this garbage? I mean, bear in mind, the Women's World Cup final, which they were touting as like just as interesting as the Men's World Cup final, became overshadowed by a kiss. And bear in mind, when the men win, they all jump into a bloody cold bath together, right? you know? I mean, bloody male footballers kiss each other. I mean, when Paul Gascoigne met Prince William, he gave him a peck. And nobody gave a shit, and neither should they, right? Now, I'm guessing that the guy in question is playing a role, because what people don't realise is, I mean, it may well be that Russell Brand is also playing a role, and that it's part of the script is that he was going to be outed as a sex pest. And the idea behind that is, he's a sex pest, therefore everything he says on his channel is rubbish, right? That's how they do it. They discredit you in that way. It's just a bog standard and totally meaningless ad hominem attack. Even if Russell Brand was a multi-rapist, even if Russell Brand was a mass murderer, it doesn't necessarily mean anything he has to say on his YouTube channel is wrong. That's the point. But they do it always like this. Look at this rubbish here. How embarrassing. I mean, let's face it, it's got nothing to do with football. Kissing. I mean, honestly, and why did the media mention it? If you look at the picture of this woman being kissed to two ugly old cow, then there were other people being hugging and kissing in the same picture. But when a woman kisses a woman, that's okay. But if a man kisses a woman, that's wrong. What kind of fucking top upside down world do we live in when this is an issue? No one is, well, the media are telling people to take an interest in football. And because there was, every time you see a picture of the Women's World Cup, the lack of crowds is blurred out. What they can do is they alter the focus so that people can't see that actually the stadiums are mostly empty. And in fact, in order to fill up women's football grounds, when they're not women's football grounds, everything is subsidised by men actually, but they have to blur out the fact that there's very few people there, or the stadiums are not full, and that many of the people who go there are actually free tickets. They give schools free tickets. They try to persuade girls. They try to get girls to take an interest in it, and then they create phony stories like, "Oh, everybody wants to buy my goalkeeper's shirt, but Nike won't sell it," you know. So people are going to think, oh yeah, now that Nike are selling it, I'm going to have to buy it. You know, some Chinese-made polyester for 80 quid or something. What a load of fucking shit. You can buy a bloody goalkeeper's jersey for a tenner with #1 written on it and doesn't have to have any branding on it. Fuck off. Everything is fake. Everything is staged. Every bloody fucking sport. Every bloody day there's a fucking 100 different stupid sports. Champions League reaction. Every bloody day is football, rugby, cricket, men's cricket, women's rugby, and golf, and then tennis, and every fucking thing else. Preston top of championship. Honestly, and Formula One is another ridiculous sport. I'd be more interested in watching the international Sky Electric competition. Be more interesting and probably more carbon friendly as well. And then they say, oh yeah, you know, are we doing enough to make sure that the 2026 World Cup is carbon friendly or something? Well, how about cancelling it? If you're that serious, if you are that serious about climate change, then surely the best thing to do is to cancel these stupid competitions. You know, people, I gave people many times USB sticks with really good quality stuff that I collected, and I never get any feedback because people don't watch them. And yet if you were to meet them again, they'd say something like, yeah, I'm sorry, I've been really busy, but not so busy that you haven't watched every fucking football game that's been on TV for the last 20 weeks. You see, people do have time, including people with jobs and money, but they don't want to spend their free time doing anything useful or important or interesting or sensible. But for this fucking football, cricket, Formula One, rugby league, tennis, golf, boxing, athletics, more tiddlywinks. Look at that. Who gives a shit about all these fucking arseholes? Trying to find a man without a tattoo now in football. You know? I can understand, you know, a little bit of sport, fine. A little bit of sport. That's enough. But look at this, it's just fucking overkill. And now on top of them, they're trying to get women to duplicate men, and they're trying to get women to take the same absurd and that's why men are such children. The vast majority of men are little children, and the reason is that they never grow up. You know, when I was a teenage boy, I was interested in football. Right? In my early 20s, I was interested in football. When I finally realised that the world was being manipulated and that football was a scam, sport was a scam. Blimey, it is very windy today. Still, it doesn't matter because I got my laundry to dry, so that's useful. Another thing you'll notice, of course, is that when it's really windy, it's never cold. It's very mild. So all those wind turbines that are going like crazy, they won't. None of that energy is going to go for heat because people don't need it. It's just really mild. So that's the problem with wind. It generally comes when you don't need it. In much the same way as solar panels don't seem to work that well in midwinter at night. Anyway, thank you for your time.